The planetary boundaries are kind of a collection of the 9 most pressing global environmental problems currently. And so in this project, we wanted to look at all these kind of problems jointly and see from an economic perspective how are they connected. For instance, what are the economic activities that put pressure on them? And if you start trying to reduce some of the pressures by enacting policies that reduce some economic activities, how would that then spill over to the other planetary boundaries through the economic linkages? We found that if we want to implement what we call carbon pricing, so that's basically putting a price on emissions of carbon, so the greenhouse gases containing carbon, then that would actually reduce the pressure on many of the other planetary boundaries as well. So since the main problem was this increased demand for biofuels when you try to restrict fossil fuel use, we found that if we combine the fossil fuel kind of policy or the carbon price with a kind of policy aimed at reducing biofuel use, and in practice we thought of that as kind of reducing some of the existing subsidies to biofuels, then the combination of these two policies would actually reduce all the planetary pressures.
So by putting a price on carbon and reducing subsidies on biofuel, you will solve the problem with crossing all planetary boundaries?
Well, yes, in the sense that it seems to reduce all the planetary pressures, or all the pressures on the boundaries included in the planetary boundaries. But what we haven't considered is how it affects human welfare more generally. For instance, what we can see is that it would increase food prices and reduce food supply, and it will also reduce energy supply and so on. So, and I mean, these are of course also important aspects. So, yeah. So we also need to understand what would be the broader consequences for in other dimensions than just reducing these planetary pressures of these policies before we can say what we should actually do.